I guess we're starting to wind down, huh? We've got 2 more weeks of this stuff left. Excited for this week. See how it fares. We've got 2 at home, 2 on the road. I tell you guys, I don't look at the schedule kind of past the next game, but when you're this close to the finish line, you kind of have an idea what's in front of you. So we're in a pretty good place. We just got to finish the right way.
Frank, looking back at the MSU tape, did you see anything defensively that you didn't like, or was it just they were making shots in the second half?
The biggest difference in the game was them defensively. They came after us, and we couldn't. Keyshawn and AJ struggled using screens to get open. Our guards, they were really getting after our guards and kind of trying to deny, and our guards did not once drive the ball in the second half. Now the only guy that drove the ball was Mike in the second half, and when we played him at home, he converted, and the other day he didn't convert. And I don't mean to be boring, but biggest difference in the game. It's not like we won a 12-point game here. I mean, it was a very similar game, back and forth. And in the second half, he made his layups and he made his free throws. Very similar game. And unfortunately, we also got better games from Hassani and Chris. I didn't think either one of them played particularly well. But the biggest difference in the game was them defensively. But yes, Holman had not been playing real well for them. And all of a sudden he takes a ball and shoots in a 27-footer. That's some of the stuff you deal with when Lamar Peters, who we did a pretty good job of in the first half, then, he we're in control of the game, and he does the James Harden triple step back and, makes a 3 on a just 4-step back. It is what it is, and a foul. Then he comes down and makes another bomb. It's gave them life. And then defensively, they just played more energized. And then, like I said, those are the things we struggled at on offense.
Frank, you guys have been so good after losses in the SEC. Is there something that they do, after taking kind of a hard L? Why can they move on so well, you think?
I don't want to say I don't want to, take responsibility for that, but that's my personality. That's how I train our teams from day one. I'm not a big yesterday guy. Some guys will watch countless hours of the last game with their team. We utilize the stuff that we need to learn from, why things worked, why didn't work. But you got to move on. You can't dwell. And so I don't know if it's me and my personality, but it's kind of the way I try to coach basketball and prepare our guys. So it's about the next day. It always is, always will be. I've never – when I was young and dumb and stupid, I used to dwell on yesterday a lot. And I learned dwelling on yesterday doesn't impact today in a positive way. So it's an area that I've changed from my early days to now. When I mean early, I'm talking about my high school days. You got to move on. If you practice the right way and you prepare the right way, you're either going to win or lose the game. There's no other alternative. This isn't soccer where there's a tie, or football for that matter. In our sport, you're either winning or you're losing. And once the game's over, why dwell on it? Learn from it. Learn what you did right and wrong, but move on right away. That's the way I try to do it.
As Frank Kermit said after the game here that the rest of these games are going to feel like NCAA tournament games for his team. Is that kind of the way you're looking at it, that these games are kind of almost play-in games for you, or do you stress that to the team, or is there a danger in kind of doing that this early before the season ends?
I don't. I try to give guys perspective of where we're at, not speak about These are play-in games. That's me putting undue pressure on our players. The way I word it to our players is like, there's a lot of teams in the country that would like to trade with us right now with 4 games to go. Actually, the majority of the teams in the country would like to trade with us where we're at right now, from a league standpoint, from being in control of where you end up at. A lot of people are scrambling for wins, hoping to pass people. We're in a pretty good place right now, but we got to win. I mean, it's simple as that. I can't actually act like our players don't, follow bracketology, or they don't, read whatever's out there. Social media, our guys are going to engage in all kinds of conversations, and so I have a responsibility to make them understand what's in front of them, but without putting unnecessary pressure on them. We have to pressure ourselves to do things the right way. I like Mississippi State. I felt a little, which is after 7 years in this league, it's been the one thing that I've never understood. Kind of answering as to why we lost to a 20-win team in their building, who's been ranked in the top 20 pretty much the whole year. They're real good. We fought our tails off, and it just wasn't quite good enough. This league's really, really hard right now. Every game is an NCAA tournament game. There's no bottom in our league. I get there's some teams in our league that have bad league records. Look at their non-league records. They were pretty good. We're in a good place right now. I don't need to put undue pressure on our players. Chris, Asani, Mike, they've lived it. They know what the deal is. I don't need to tell them. The young guys, I need to make sure I give them perspective, so they don't. I can't. I think I've shared this with you guys before. I made that comment to my second team at K-State. We're getting ready to play at Oklahoma State. I said, hey, if you want to go to the NCAA tournament, you have to win this game. We fought our tails off. They were an NCAA team. We just lost in the last 10 seconds of the game. Now my team was defeated. Now we went out and lost to Texas, who we beat in the regular season, in the Big 12 conference opener, tournament opener. So we don't make the NCAA tournament. So I said I'll never do that again. So I don't get into that conversation. But I give them perspective. We're in 4th place. Well, the thing started today with a 4th seed in the SEC. So a lot of people that would want to be the 4th seed with 4 games to go. Now, you got to win. If you don't win, you're not going to be the 4th seed. It's pretty simple.
Rick, I think Thursday with Derek, you mentioned that you would address free throw shooting with your team. How have you done that? Have you changed that?
Derek.
On Thursday night on your coach's show.
Oh, yeah.
Derek Scott. Yeah. I think you mentioned
that.
Okay. I think you said that you would address that in your own way about free throw shooting. How have you done that? Is that something you change year to year? Like, how does a coach handle when a team's not shooting, goes through a stretch that's not shooting particularly well at the free throw line? What do you do to address that and not, screw with them mentally, I guess?
Yeah, if I start putting attention on it, then they start thinking about it. Anytime you start making your players think that you're worried about something, they're going to worry about it. And I just got to get in the gym and shoot balls. Simple as that. I mean, we got a couple guys that are bad. I shouldn't say they're not bad shooters. They're just bad free throw shooters, and it's all in their minds. And Keyshawn's worked on it lately. He's not been 90%, but he's made some of his free throws here lately because you know what? He's kind of came in the gym and he's worked on it. The other 2 guys that aren't making any free throws are Alonzo and Mike. It's a pretty simple formula. Get in the gym and work on it. It's not a team problem. It's an individual problem. And the team don't fix individual problems. Individuals need to fix individual problems. And there's nothing we can do as coaches and teammates that's going to wish the ball in the basket. We can clap and be as positive as we want. Guys that don't work at it, the ball's not going to go in the basket. They got to go in the gym and shoot balls. And It's too late in the season for us to be dwelling on a negative. We got some good free throw shooters. I always get blamed for the 2 or 3 bad foul shooters, but I never get credit for the guys that make free throws. But that's life as a coach.
Frank, there have been a couple of coaches who've taken up for your team's cause because of the way you've played over the course of the conference season. Do you think there needs to be a measure taken by the NCAA that ensures that teams like yours that have developed later on during the season or late bloom can get consideration for things like the NCAA tournament, things of that nature?
I've always been a firm believer. I don't care what league you're in. The season, the longer it gets, the harder it gets. It's not the other way around. And the reason it gets harder is because there's more film on your team, so everyone's more prepared to play against you just as you are prepared to play against them. Early in the year, there's a lot of unknown. Not only are you playing coaches that I've never coached against, players that we've never played against. You're not playing those conference rivals where everybody's kind of going at each other a little harder. There's a lot of unknown. People aren't not as prepared because there's not as much film on your team. As the season goes on, it gets harder and harder. I think our team has learned how to win. I think the season either teaches you how to win or it teaches you how to fail. And I don't think there's really any in between there. And as I don't like speaking about other teams, so I'm kind of being careful. Sometimes, I shouldn't say sometimes, today's day and age, anytime someone says something, everyone thinks that it's tongue-in-cheek about somebody else. You can't, you have to worry about your team learning how to win. And I'm a true believer that teams that win in February, that win in league play, regardless of what conference you're in, whether it's the Big South or the SEC, the Big 12, those are teams that get better. And at the end of the day, why do you value a win in November more than a win in February when it's harder to win in February? I've never understood that. I get it. It's the whole season. You know, it's beginning to end. It's not, you can't take a loss in November, so I don't count. That was early in the year. It's okay to lose in February. No, it's just not. It's the whole thing. But that's where computers and numbers, they don't give you that. That's where you as a human being got to watch and say, wow, that team there is playing real good basketball. And I think that's why some of the coaches are saying those things, because they've watched our team. They got to compete against them. And I think they understand how hard it is to be in the place that our team is in. See, it's not a fluke right now. We're not 9 and 5 and 4th place in the SEC because we had a couple breaks go our way. You could have said that after the first 2 games or 3 games where we won at Vanderbilt or Florida, whatever. Okay, well, they got lucky at the end of the games a little bit. We've obviously sustained that. But we got to do it for 4 more games. And that'll determine who we are. But I think our team's gotten a lot better.
Frank, with Alabama, the series past 3-4 years, they've kind of had your number. What's been so difficult about solving them? Is it just the matchups that they play, the defense?
Hold on now. So for 34 years, they've had my number?
No, 3 to 4 years.
Oh, 3 to 4 years. Oh, I was at 34 years have my number. Holy cow. That's been some hard games. I mean, you know, last year they beat us at their place pretty good. No, it's Anthony Grant's last year, I want to say. We went into their building. We had 8 guys. They had 7 guys. It was just, you know, a late season game where both rosters were just in a depleted place for different reasons. We lost in 7 overtimes here. We played them in the conference tournament, and it was like back and forth the whole game, and they got us in the last, you know, minute of the game or whatever. Right? We've had some hard games. I want to say last year's the only – I want to say we beat them the year before at home, if I remember correctly. I think last year's the only game that really – well, that's not true. The year we were undefeated, we went in there and Riley Norris made 8 threes, and they got away from us too. You know, playing in their – that's like them and Kansas, I think, are the only 2 buildings where we have not won at during my time here. We've had some hard games. they've been able to get us here, over the last couple of years, and that's all fine and dandy, but all that's really irrelevant for this year and this team. It's not like our guys are warming up saying, man, we haven't beat them the last 3 times or whatever it's been. We don't think that way.
Questions, guys? John?
Tevin Mack is on that roster, obviously a Columbia native. You recruited him. What do you remember about his recruitment, the type of player he is, and what are you seeing that he's doing with Bama?
Yeah, real good player. And it seems like he's at peace, and it seems like he's gotten to a place where there's trust because he's playing consistent minutes. Tevin, real good competitor, real good player. Big key, defending him and trying to control Alabama. You can't lose him because he's too good a shooter, and he's a big shooter. Obviously, a real good player here in South Carolina when he was here in Columbia, in the Midlands for that matter. His high school coach, Jeff DeBattisto, longtime friend, loved coaching him. It's one of the reasons we engaged in his recruitment as hard as we did. The guy that was my roommate at Northeastern, my first year in college basketball, who played at Keenan, Travis Garrett. Him and Tevin's brother were tighter than new rope. His brother played for Mark Fox at Nevada. I'm happy for Tevin. He seems to, as a coach, you watch kids grow, and some look disgruntled, some look to be at peace. He looks to be at peace, and when I see him on film, I think he's playing real good for them right now, and he's consistent with the minutes he's getting. So as a guy on the outside looking in, trying to figure stuff out, watching film, it seems like he's in a real good place with that staff and that team right now, and I'm happy for him because it's like with Devontae the other day. At the end of the day, you want to see people succeed, and that's what it's all about. These kids make these decisions when they go to college, and it's not about making people look bad. It's not about well, I'm going to do that in spite of that. It's decisions that are very important because it's the next step to finding success in life. And Tevin seems like he's there right now.
Alabama as a whole, they're an interesting study because you see they've dropped 3 or 4. You also see wins over Kentucky and Ole Miss, and probably have played Tennessee as well as anyone at their place and almost beaten them. It makes them a dangerous team coming here, knowing that they have that capable, that stuff in them when you see some of those results?
Once again, I think it's just the unfortunate. Think about the narrative, and I'm going to say this publicly, and I'm okay with it. Think about the narrative the ACC creates. Okay? Does anyone ever say that a team in the ACC is 6-7? What's Alabama, 7-7? Because they're struggling, or do they say they're 7-7 because the league's that good? And I'm using them because it's our neighboring league. I could use the Big 12 also. No one ever reports that a team is 7-7 because they're struggling. In our league, anyone that goes 7-7 is because they're up and down. No, our league's really hard. Alabama's really good. Alabama's an NCAA. I watch film for a living at this time of year. It's all I do. I'm sick that way. Alabama is a tournament team. If the season ended today, that is a team that can win games in the NCAA tournament. We create locally in all our media markets, which then is piggybacked by the national media, that teams that are 7-7 in our league is because they're not playing well. They're really good. We're going to have to play our rear ends off to figure out a way to win a game tomorrow night. And it's another NCAA caliber team that's coming into this building. And I hate that we do that to ourselves in this conference. It drives me nuts that we continue to create a narrative that the teams that are 7-7 are up and down. That's what happens when you play in a hard conference. It's what happens. I mean, would you say Kansas is pretty good? You see what just happened to them in a road conference game the other day? It's hard, man. It's hard. Alabama's good. We need to play real well to have a chance to beat them. Just like we played against Ole Miss. We had to play real well to beat them. We had to play real well to beat Mississippi State earlier. We had to play real well to beat them at their place. We didn't play well enough. It's hard, man. It's hard. This league is ridiculous right now. Thank you.